हेलो स्टूडेंट्स, आज मैं आपके लिए लाया हूँ नीट 2025 का सो कॉल्ड टफेस्ट क्वेश्चन. So we will solve this problem in a very conceptual manner and we'll see how to get the answer for this. But before that, I just wanted to talk about this toughest exam of NEET 2025, as you are hearing from all around. So, and I don't disagree to it that the questions that were asked in physics were definitely above the standard of what was being asked earlier. But if you think, it's not actually going to matter much. Reason being that anyway you are going to get a relative score, you are going to get a rank. Your absolute marks are not going to matter. So even if you are scoring low, since the paper itself is tough, everybody would be scoring low, and that means it just matters that how where you are standing with respect to others. So the relative marks is what is important. So don't worry too much on if your scores are less. Obviously the cutoffs are also going to be less accordingly. So that is point one, you don't need to worry much about it. The second point, and more important point that I want to highlight is that generally we have seen that in NEET kind of exams, very less attention is paid on physics. Now, while it's fine that you are paying more attention to biology, you are paying more attention to chemistry, but actually speaking, nobody has told you to not pay attention to physics, right? You have taken PCB, physics, chemistry, biology, right? So in that case, physics is equally important for you. So we have to understand physics on a conceptual basis. Let's not talk about just this exam, but in general also, I will give you some examples that if you are very weak in physics, it will become difficult even after you have cracked the NEET, right? Let's say tomorrow you are willing to become a nephrologist, or let's say you become a nephrologist after some time, and like the patients who are coming who have the kidney failure, they are going to be on dialysis. Now, being on dialysis, you should be aware about the various parameters that machine is throwing out. Everything is fluid there, blood is coming out of the body, right? You need to know what is the pressure that you need to maintain, what is the blood flow rate that you are going to maintain. And in that case, you if you are not able to understand that how this fluid mechanics works, right, then imagine that the treatment to the patient will become really difficult, right? You will not be able to kind of help out those who are actually doing it on ground. So that is one part. Another part is that this NEET exam, obviously it makes you a doctor, but on a wider basis, this NEET exam is going to open the doors of medical sciences for you. So in future, tomorrow, if you decide to go on some research, do some research in the field of medical sciences, and you are not aware about physics at all, then obviously you will face issues. You people might be already aware, like there is a artificial kidney being researched right now, right? And still it is under research, and people are facing issues. If you go and look out the reasonings why it hasn't come yet, there are several issues that are happening. The latest one which I was going through was a problem of physics that was kind of hindering the development. So all I mean to say is that physics is also holding a good position, and that is the reason why it is being given in your curriculum of PCB. It is your perception, you have made that perception that it's only about formulas, it's only about mugging up the formulas and just you know uh, using them to get some answers. But it is not like that. When you are being given it as a curriculum, you need to understand it. Nobody has told that it's an unimportant subject. It's your perception that you have thought that it's an un, it's a less important subject compared to biology and chemistry. So my humble request is that please do pay attention to physics as well. Do your full justice as you are doing on, obviously since you have taken biology, your 50% concentration has to be on biology, but you have to give a proper 25% concentration uh, on physics as well. So you have to divide it like that, right? I mean 25% on chemistry, 25 on physics, and the rest on biology, because each of these subjects are important for you, they are in your curriculum. and you have taken it based on your choice, right? Later on, you cannot say that this subject is completely out of uh, I mean uh, there's nothing about this subject that is important for me. If that was the case, then the curriculum may not have been designed that way. So please try to solve the questions of physics. Try to have a conceptual understanding of the subject. Not only mug up the formulas. Obviously, you need to know the formulas for getting the edge and getting the speed to do the calculations, to do the sums as well. But knowing the concept is very important. If you get a very easy problem, obviously you can utilize the formula, but you may get a conceptual question. Nobody has stopped the examiner, and there is no bar actually on the examiner to not set a question on a conceptual level, because that is in your subject, and the question that they are setting is not of BSc standard. They are of the very much 12th standard. They are within your syllabus. So the only thing that is missing out here is the understanding of the concept, which is making you feel that the question is very very tough. So try to increase the level of your understanding, try to increase the level of concepts, so that you don't feel that the subject is very hard. Now again, I want to clear here that I'm not going to compare it with JEE Advanced, whether this question is comparable to JEE Advanced or JEE Mains, because each exam is different. Each exam has a different pattern, a different motive. It is being conducted with a different motive altogether. So the point is not about whether it's as comparable to advanced or as comparable to mains. The question is, have you done justice to your physics and in understanding the concept along with chemistry and biology? And if you have done that, then you should not worry about whether the question is tough or very easy. If it is tough, and it's tough for everyone, right? You are not going to lose anything. But if you are very clear with the concepts, and in fact if everybody is clear with the concept, then probably everybody will not say that the question is tough, and in that case probably there will be a more competitive exam going on and maybe that the physics will in physics you might score more. So anyway, I will stop with this. So don't worry if you have scored less, because obviously the question is tough for everyone. But please understand that you need to increase your level of physics altogether, because it is an important subject, whether you have taken PCB or whether you have taken PCM. In both these cases, physics is an important and integral part of the syllabus. So let's see now how to solve this problem. Now the question was that consider a water tank shown in the figure, and it has a wall at x equal L, and it can be taken very wide in the z direction. So that means out of this plane of paper, you can think that it's very wide, right? So it's extended like to a very large length. Now, when filled with a liquid of surface tension S and density rho, the liquid surface makes angle theta naught. Theta naught is very very less than 1 with respect to x-axis at x equal L. So at this point, it is making an angle of theta naught, and it said that theta naught is very very less than 1. Probably it means to say that it is very very small. Now, if y of x is the height of the surface, then the equation for y of x is, now take theta of x equals sine of theta of x, because obviously you know that if theta is very small, then theta x is sine of theta x is nothing but almost equal to theta of x, and same way tan of theta x is also equal to theta of x, and it is also saying that it is equal to dy by dx. So dy by dx is nothing but equal to theta is equal to sine theta is equal to tan theta is what it's saying, and g is the acceleration due to gravity. So this is a question from surface tension chapter, and there are options given 1, 2, 3, 4, as you can see over here. Let's first analyze these four options and see like if I can do this question just by looking at the options. Now you see here it's a differential equations given, and now if I the first thing I can try is doing the dimensional analysis. But you see that if I try to do dimensional analysis, right, I can remove option 3 and 4 for sure. Option 3, 4, but I will not be able to remove option 1 and 2. Why? Because both x or y, right, over here, x or y, it will be giving me the same unit of length, right? And in that case, I will not be able to decide whether it's a function of y or whether it's a function of x, because unit wise, both of them are giving me meter as the unit. Now, that means even if I waste my time in finding the dimensional dimensions and doing the dimensional analysis, I can maximum, remove option 3 and 4, but I can't do anything with option 1 and 2. So still I will not be in a position to answer with 100% confidence. So that's why I will not go with the with the dimensional analysis. That's point number one. Now let's see what is the other thing that I can think of. So the other thing that I can think of is the basic, just going by the concepts, and that's where I was telling that concept is important. You just don't need to mug up the formulas. You need to understand the basics. If you know about the concept, it will be very easy for you. So we are just going to make the FBD, the force body diagram of a given column of fluid, and then we will do the force balance. That's the only thing that that comes to my mind as of now, right? So the simple thing is, like, let's assume that at a distance of x we have taken a liquid column of length, let's say dx. So now let me make this over here with more clarity. So this is the column that we are talking about. The length over here is dx, and at this point imagine that its average height is y, which is obviously a function of x, as we know. So let's see that this one is y, and this side it is y plus dy. So because there is a slight increment, right, with dx there will be a slight increment. So till here it is y, and then it is dy, right? So it is y plus dy over here, and between them there is the surface will look something like this, right? So imagine that here, let me take a different color. So imagine that at this point how the surface tension will act. So first of all, we should understand that how the surface tension acts actually. Surface tension basically acts to reduce the surface, right? So it tries to shrink the surface towards the inner side of the fluid. So the surface is like this side it will try to pull it inside, right, in this direction. Same way from here in this column, from this side if I look at it, the surface tension is going to pull it down like this. So that is the surface tension resultant that will happen along the tangent of this surface. Now imagine that the angle here is theta, right? And here, let's say the angle is theta plus d theta. Theta will be increased slightly because each time you are seeing that the angle is increasing, right? The angle is increasing all along x. So that's why I have taken, let's say at a point, at a distance of x, right? There is an angle of theta, and let's say at a distance of x plus dx, angle is theta plus d theta. Now once I have done that, this force, this surface tension multiplied by the length is nothing but the force. So this force is S into length. Which length? The length along this direction out of the plane of the paper, which is given to be very wide, which is given as very wide. That is the length that we are talking about, because if you look in the three dimension, it's something like this. Pardon me for my drawing, but it is something like this, right? This is the surface, and this is the length that we are talking about, which is given to be very wide. So let's say that length is a along this direction, along the direction of the plane of the direction which is coming out of this plane of the paper. The length is a, so we will say that the force is s into a. Same way here, resultant force will be s into a. Now we can break this resultant force in x and y direction. If we are going to break it along the y direction, this will become SA sine theta, SA sine of theta. And since it is given that sine theta is approximately theta, when theta is very small, that means it becomes SA theta, right? That is the force which is in the y direction. So let me draw it here. This force is SA theta. Now along the x direction, this direction, this is the resultant force SA. Along the x direction, it will become SA cos theta. Now when theta is very small, it is given that theta is very small, so that's why cos of theta will become approximately 1. So it will be simply SA, right? Same way, if I am going to do over here, this side, since along the x-axis the force will become s into a, because the theta plus d theta is also very small. Now in this direction, along the y direction, the force will be s a into theta plus d theta, which means it will be sa theta plus sa d theta, right? So that is the total force acting in this direction. So if you now see, the net force acting in the downward direction will be SA theta plus SA d theta minus SA theta, which will give me S into A into d theta. This is the net force which is acting in the downward direction, like this. So the overall net force acting in the downward direction is being given as S into A into d theta, where A is the length along the z direction, right? And that which is given to be very wide, we have just assumed it to be as A. So this is the net force acting along the y direction, downward direction of y. Now let's see what are the other forces. So now the other force which is acting on it, if you see, this is a hydrostatic situation, right? The water is not moving, it is static. So this column is going to exert a, a force, right, on the container which is below it, right? It's going to exert its weight, the weight whatever is there in this liquid column, that weight will be exerted on the container, and in response to that, container is also going to exert an upward force on this liquid column. So since we are making the free body diagram of the container, that force is going to be in the upward direction, right? Now what is the mass of the liquid that will be present over here? So the entire mass of the liquid can be given as m into g, right? Mass into gravity, that is what the total force that is going to be pushing it down, and in response of that only, it is going to get a push up from the container, which means a force will be acting upward from the container side, right? So now this mg, you know, it is nothing but density into the volume into the gravity, right? This is my force, this is my force. Now volume, how do I calculate the volume? Now the volume is nothing but the volume of this entire liquid, since it is almost equal to y into dx, right? It is, you can imagine it like a rectangle, although it's looking like a trapezoid, but dy is very small. So therefore we can assume that the area of this surface is nothing but y into dx, and then along this direction, as we had already talked, we have taken the length of a. So it means that the volume will be equal to a into y dx, right? So the volume is a into y dx, a into y into g into dx. That is what is the net volume of the net mass of the fluid, or the net weight of the fluid, which is going to exert a force on the container beneath. And in response to that, since the liquid is not moving, it is in hydrostatic situation, the container is also going to give a similar kind of force upward, which you are seeing will be similar to the same number as your weight, which is coming out to be rho ay g dx. So now these two forces, SAD theta and rho AYG dx, these two forces must be equal, because again the water is not going to move, the liquid is not moving. So we can say SAD theta is equal to rho AYG dx, right? So that means A cancels from both the sides, right? So that means whatever we had assumed as A along this direction, along the z direction, is not coming into play. So now once we have this force equilibrium, now we can just solve it. So it will be d theta by dx. I just brought the dx on this side. It will be rho g by s, and y is also there. Now, at this stage itself, you are getting a clue that the only term which is appearing over here is this, right? But let's solve it completely. Now, here, theta is given as dy by dx. So it means we are doing d by dx of theta, right? And theta itself is dy by dx, as mentioned in the question, right? So this will be equal to rho g y by s, and that means d by dx of dy by dx, you already know it is nothing but d square y by dx square, and that will be equal to rho g by s into y, and that means that the option number 2 is the correct option, right? So basically this question was quite uh, conceptual. It needed to be solved through force equilibrium. I have also seen that there are solutions available where again people are trying to do it with a formula, with a known formula of curvature and all that. Obviously, you can do that. There is no harm in doing it with that. But again, that utilizing a direct formula is not going to give you any understanding. It will be just like mugging up the question. Tomorrow, if the question is not asking about, we did the y direction force balance, right? What about the x direction force balance? Tomorrow some question might come which is trying to balance the force along x. There the formula again might get different. The question might be tuned in some other way. So basically don't just go by the formulas. It's good to know the formula and remember them, but at the same time it is very important to understand the physics behind, the concept behind what actually is going on. So I hope that this explains the problem in with a very basic concept, with the force balance that we all learn in physics, and the only thing that was required here was little bit understanding of surface tension, which is playing the role in making this curvature, right, or creating this surface. And once you do the force balance, you will get the simple equation which will give you the right answer for this. So hope you enjoyed this video. I will be coming up with more such videos. Stay tuned to our channel. Please like, subscribe our channel, share it with your friends. We are soon going to start proper physics classes online even for the NEET students. So please take advantage of that. Uh, there is no fees at all. You can study it at your own pace. You can study it with full depth of concepts and understanding. So please try to uh, stay tuned with our channel, subscribe it and share with your friends. So have a great learning and keep enjoying. Have a great day. Thank you.